Every once in a while, I find a game that activates the primordial neurons harnessed by our ancestors to survive the brutal and primitive world of a bygone era. Was it the busty brown angels? Or maybe the demonic traps?
I snap my fingers. You forget that you were ever gay.
I was never gay.
Exactly.
No. It was the anthropomorphic bunny girl. Hello everyone! RetroCon here! What is Tevi? That's a surprisingly deep question. You might be tempted to think it's just a Metroidvania game with bullet hell mechanics, but actually, that is what it is. So what makes it unique and actually stand out in an environment loaded with shitty titles as far as the eye can see? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the main character, Tevi, the namesake of the game. Now, you might see the anime art style, hear the Japanese voice acting, and recognize the familiar doujinshi tropes. But don't be fooled, this game is actually Taiwanese. I would know, I googled it. You see, the Japanese and Taiwanese haven't historically gotten along, partly due to the lesser-known conflict colloquially referred to as World War II. But through the power of anime, friendship, and the ever-increasing threat of China, the two groups have learned to reconcile their differences. And so, here we are today, with Crest Spirit offering us the madness-inducing phenomena known as Tevi, a game that transforms human men into weeaboos and tricks them into falling in love with animals, cosplaying as humans. Don't be fooled by Tevi's outward appearance, however. I mean, the title, not the character. Don't look at her. She's mine. Anyways, while the cheery characters and beautiful vistas appear wholesome and friendly at first glance, the game is anything but. You see, the world of Tevi has recently emerged from the equivalent of a thermonuclear apocalypse, and much of the world is in fact uninhabitable and cursed to transform all living beings into mindless atrocities. What happened, you might ask? Well, let me give you a quick rundown. In the world of Tevi, there are 3 major factions, and much like in our world, every faction has found ways to hate each other. First, we have the humans. These are proud, noble, forward-thinking creatures capable of building magnificent cities and harnessing the power of magic to transform the world around them. Secondly, we have the beastkin, backwards, uncultured, hippies who want to live in the woods and be one with nature. Fortunately for them, humanity decided to improve their lives by integrating them into human society. Lastly, we have the Magitech. These were machines turned sentient by humanity's ever-growing technological and magical prowess, built for the sole purpose of satisfying humanity's needs and performing the most dangerous of jobs. Now, you might think humanity is the bad guy in this setting. But don't think about that. Anyways, all 3 factions lived in peace and harmony until one day, for no reason at all, the Magitech revolted and turned on their benevolent human masters. The beastkin, not wanting to deal with any of it, went back to living their hipster ways. Humanity, though, couldn't deal with advanced synthetic magical androids, and as they suffered defeat after defeat, they grew increasingly desperate. When the war finally reached the capital of humanity, humanity would, in a final desperate bid, utilize magical nuclear bombs, nuking their own capital and various parts of the world. The Magitech, witnessing all of this, figured out that humanity is utterly insane, and so ended the war, entering a new era of an uneasy coexistence between the 3 factions. Fast forward 30 years and humanity has slowly rebuilt a fraction of what they lost. The beastkin, having been forced out of the woods on account of everything having been destroyed, live in an uneasy alliance with humans. Humanity, unable to learn from their mistakes, treats the beastkin as second-class citizens, forcing them to work second-rate jobs. The Magitech, with their superior technology and intellect, decided to just build their own civilizations, high in the skies and deep underground. It is at this point that the game introduces us to Tevi, in a scene that could easily be confused with a different kind of game. The kind of game missing the consensual tag. This is a red herring, however, and while our damsel is presented as a helpless bunny, she is anything but. She quickly escapes her captivity and begins sending her foes into the Shadow Realm. Literally, imagine getting punched so hard you're sent into another dimension of nothing but pitch darkness, doomed to fall for all eternity. We quickly learn that Tevi let herself get captured on purpose, as she is on a mission to collect astral cogs. These are tools of great magical potential, capable of reversing the decay that plagues the world. What is decay? Decay is the fallout from the magical nukes mentioned earlier, and this decay has pretty much rendered life outside of a few habitable zones impossible. This is due to the fact that decay will violently transform all living beings, synthetic or otherwise, into violent abominations. By reversing the decay, Tevi hopes to give all living beings a second chance at putting aside their differences and living together in peaceful coexistence. Tevi, you poor naive fool. On your quest, you'll quickly encounter a pair of balls that will accompany you on your journey. These balls happen to be Magitech beings that are also searching for these astral cogs. Now, would you trust a pair of balls that appeared out of nowhere and started hovering over your head? Well, it doesn't matter because Tevi does. Moving on, you will also discover a riveting story of love and betrayal. The love being the unhealthy love between a father and his adoptive daughter. The betrayal being the painful one you will feel when you uncover the truth about Tevi and what lies beneath that hat. You also learn about the world and the various factions, the motivations and interests of your sidekicks, and the real reason the capital was nuked. But for a man as cultured as myself, those were simply secondary concerns. On our quest to retrieve the various astral cogs, we will explore a vast world with various biomes and settings. Deserts, plains, ruins, beaches, cities, mines, and underwater scenes, just to name a few. You'll encounter a wide cast of characters ranging from voluptuous mommy angels to clinically insane mermaids. The characters are all fun to look at, and the game also features various CGs to collect of wholesome and action-packed scenes. Each character is well written and voice acted by competent actors. The game also features a fantastic soundtrack with all kinds of fantastic music. It's what's been playing in the background and now will play in the foreground as I attempt to talk over it. Now, I did mention earlier, this is a Metroidvania. In the spirit of the genre, the game starts off with a few basic attacks and combos to keep track of. A very simple premise for my primitive monkey brain, but over time, you'll be building up an almost absurd library of combos and inputs. I know it's absurd because at most I used about 60% of my abilities intentionally, while the other 40% were used in desperate moments when I was mashing buttons to make my enemies go away. Fortunately, the game doesn't require you to learn every single combination, and you can get away with these kinds of strategies. You'll also be facing various enemies along your journey. I'll be honest, most of the regular trash enemies are just that, trash. Their sole purpose in life is to be abused by you, stun-locked to death. They serve nothing more than minor contrivances in your journey. Bosses, on the other hand, look at this thing. What even is it? Bosses are very well crafted. There will be some traditional Metroidvania bosses that go around doing their silly little things, but then there are the others. The bullet hell kind that will flood the screen with bullets, hoping to defeat you by inducing an epileptic seizure. They're pretty damn fun. Biomes and the environment also become more difficult to traverse as you progress through the game. You'll go from exploring tranquil forests and mysterious temples to devastated ruins and horrific hellscapes. You'll go from tripping over a branch to praying that those giant axes don't cut you in half. Fortunately, the world of Tevi is littered with various items and collectibles that augment your character in various ways. They can be simple concoctions that increase the amount of damage you take and receive, or more nuanced items that increase your movement speed or let you defy physics by letting you jump in midair. There are a ton of collectibles in this game, hundreds upon hundreds of them. On your journey, you'll also be finding sigils, an interesting system of buffs and debuffs that can be toggled off or on. Sigils cost energy points to activate, and you only have so many of these points to spend. Throughout your journey, you'll be able to increase the number of sigils you can toggle off or on, allowing you to experiment and influence how you play. Sigils have a wide variety of augmentations. Some will lower the mana consumption of skills. Others will change how your combos function. Others still will allow you to photograph your enemies in compromising positions, allowing you to blackmail them into submission. This is just 3 out of the large number of sigils in the game. And the truth is that you should be experimenting with this feature quite a bit to get the most out of it. As if that wasn't enough, there's also a crafting system in the game. Killing enemies or purchasing goods will give you various materials which can be used to craft new items, upgrade existing items, or create consumables such as food to heal or bombs to engage in terrorism. There are also various side quests and challenges. A fair bit of warning, meanest challenges, which are essentially time trials to get from one point to another, should really be considered doing after you've beaten most of the game. Every single one of her challenges I tried essentially required me to not only have uncovered the optimal path to the destination, but also use just about every ability in the game. And really, this segues into the only problem I had with the game: backtracking. On your journey, you'll find many items in areas you can't quite get to. Most of the time, this is because you're missing an ability or item of some kind. The number of times I backtracked to where an item was to see if a new ability I got was what I needed to get to it took up a great deal of my time. There's no real way to know if the reason you can't do something is because you're missing an ability or because you suck. And well, that sucked. So, if you decide to play this game, here's my recommendation. Just keep pushing forward. Don't look back. Don't look behind you. Don't look at the thing standing behind you. Ignore their hungry gaze. Just keep going forward. Keep staring at the screen. Don't turn around. But also, don't backtrack unless you get stuck at a boss and need to boost your stats, or if you want to collect everything and have already finished the game. Conclusions. This game was fun. It's a charming game that is much larger and deeper than it looks. You'll be spending a few dozen hours just completing the story, and many more if you're a completionist. Again, the only real gripe was the lack of context the game gives in relation to backtracking. I spent about 40 hours finishing this game, and if you remove all the backtracking, I probably would have saved 5 or 6 hours. Aside from that, everything else was wonderful. The sigil system, the story, the combos, abilities, and art were all fantastic, fun and engaging. The bosses in particular were very well crafted, and you can tell a lot of love went into this game. If I had to give this game a score, it would be equivalent to the number of atoms in a bunny over the number of times a bunny has ever transformed into a human. Anyways folks, thanks for watching and have a beautiful day.